Hello, folks. Welcome to Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. And tonight, I'm going to be talking about the border convergence. There has been a call to converge at the border and in support of border activists, asylum seekers, shelters, a convergence. And as I showed you, there's a lot of that is Antifa-led, anarchist-led. I'm going to talk through that again today. And I'm going to also be talking about the effect of the mass shootings and the topic that is encapsulated there, right? Because they're talking about the El Paso shooting as being a hate crime against Mexicans on American soil. Some people are calling it a terrorist attack. Those people include Mexico. And so we're gonna talk about how the shootings in El Paso and elsewhere in Dayton, Ohio and Chicago, how these things have triggered us as Americans and how we are being harvested. Our pain is being harvested now. And people are directing folks to send their dollars and get off their butt and do something and get to a protest and do something. So you're triggered emotionally. If you're a Mexican, you're even more triggered, right? And on top of that, we are told, okay, now take that emotion and do something with it. And we're going to be talking about who is pulling those puppet strings of our hearts. Because it's important that we know. I agree that we should do something, that something needs to be done, that we need to talk about it, all of that. But when something traumatic like the shooting in El Paso or Dayton, Ohio, when anything that traumatic occurs, there are going to be a lot of people willing and ready, prepared even, to take advantage of that situation, to collect your money, but not only that, and maybe more importantly, not only that, they also want you to do something. Go to a detention facility and block the road in, or go to a camp of activists and give them your support and your money, or go to Mexico and take some kind of poverty porn tour of the shelters and hold a baby. And as many of these people from the United States and from these NGOs and activist groups have done, to include Hollywood actresses and actors that they've taken over there to do this poverty porn kind of tourism. So I want to talk about why that is just as gross to me as the people in politics that are taking advantage of this moment. But I think we need to know and we need to recognize that it is happening, that we are being manipulated, and that we can be equally outraged and want very much to do something about gun violence in America, about what happened in El Paso, what happened in Dayton, Ohio, and then also in what's happened in our country for a long time with regard to mass shootings and their frequency and the amount of people that are killed. There is a way for us to have that conversation and have a conversation about gun control or bullet control or some freaking kind of control, and also be very mindful of who and what is pushing our buttons and for what reasons. And I'm going to show you one aspect of what that is with regard to going to the border. Now, on my last show, I talked about how there was a call to action by these anti-fascist groups that created the Border Support Network and that helped to support it, fund it, message about it, right? And they, have played a very important role, though a lot of folks have been wanting to downplay the important central role that Antifa leadership have had, right? And what it means that they're bringing together a coalition of people who identify as water protectors from Standing Rock that have been in activities and protests and marches and events and festivals and trips and encampments and road trips for years now, literally. It's almost like a alternative, slumming type of festival life, but you get the feel goods of being a volunteer at something that you really don't know how to do.
Yep.
In many cases. I'm talking about Lolly B, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, what I'm saying, and it's not just her. I'm talking about how a lot of these people are going around the world, really. But most recently, we've seen them doing disaster relief. So, quote unquote, disaster relief in Puerto Rico, disaster relief after the hurricane in Houston. What did they really do? They took in a lot of money. They defrauded people. They amassed donations, and all of it was to line their pockets and to lift their profile. Puerto Rico is still in shambles. Many people that had to leave Puerto Rico because there wasn't any infrastructure and electricity, etc., that have been here for months have not been able to go home yet. So a lot of what these folks have fought against or for or supported are things they leave by the wayside, don't really fix, don't really change, and then move on to the next,
junket.
The next topic, really. The next, fad. Because a lot of these things are fads that people change like they change their clothes. And the latest of the things that you are going to be asked to do is to go and converge on the border. I think it's pretty stupid given the weather conditions, the heat index, it's a lot. It's a lot to put people through. It's a lot to put resources of our law enforcement and all of this through for a publicity stunt, because a lot of what is happening in the aftermath of these mass shootings is part of cashing in on that spotlight and getting your publicity stunt in there. So you're in the news. So your messaging is in the news, right? And what I wanted to show you, we'll talk about how that is just damaging and horrible. But before that, I wanted to thank those of you who have been sending me information about what's going on at the border. And believe me, I'm getting so much. I could do 10 shows based on what I've gotten in just over the weekend. But keep it coming. We may not get to it right away, but then somewhere down the road, it may become relevant again, and we will eventually cover it. How do folks get to send us stuff, Duke, and leave us messages?
Oh, all sorts of ways. We'd like to thank all of you for participating and for all the people who have sent us information. And, every show I say a little bit about how you can send information in different ways and also try to direct you to our resources so you keep up with our work. And also, we take these programs and we take many of them and we put them on the air in Fargo-Moorhead. So I want people in the Fargo-Moorhead community to know how to get a hold of us, because it's airing on the radio and the FM area on FM. You can email Cindy at kpppfm.com, or you can email me, Duke, at kpppfm.com. You can leave a message in our call-in line if you'd like to leave us a 3-minute message and say something. If you wanted to put it on the air, you say we have permission, or you say don't put it on the air. You can call 701-566-0917. The number is 701-566-0917. You can also tweet us at media_PPP. And you can find us on Facebook at 88.1 FM, 88.1 FM, KPPP LP. You can also find us the People's Press Project on Facebook, and also Mexi-Can. And you can go to our website at kpppfm.com. There you'll find all of our videos, all our past shows, and the videos are actually YouTube videos. We upload them to YouTube. So if you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, it's Duke1517. Just go to YouTube and find Duke1517 and then subscribe to our channel and put the little bell on there so you'll be alerted when the videos go up. We put these videos up right after the shows, so they go up within an hour of once we're done for the evening. Then they go on our website at kpppfm.com along with an audio podcast of the show. When you're at kpppfm.com, please go to our donate tab and please support our work. We're a nonprofit, non-commercial radio station in Fargo, Moorhead, and we broadcast to potentially 165,000 people in this community. And we are a nonprofit that's been running for a number of years on the radio for over 3 years, and it's because of viewers and listeners like you. We've expanded through Facebook, and we have a reach of an audience throughout this country as well as other countries, and we have many people that listen to what we're doing and follow what we're doing. If you'd like to support our work, go to kpppfm.com/donate. It's a tax-deductible donation. We're totally legit. We file with the IRS in the States, and your money will be spent wisely, and we really appreciate the support. And thank you, all of you who have been supporting us throughout the years and recently. Thank you very much.
So, folks, I wanted to give people an update on our upcoming trip to Tijuana. We want to partner up with Oscar El Blue Ramirez, and we're going to go and do some coverage there. Someone mentioned, Duke, that they sent in money for our trip and that it got sent back.
Really? How
to them. I don't know how they donated. Maybe Nemo can ask how they donated that money, and we'll find out how it was that it got sent back.
Well,
what are the options for folks if that happens to them and they want to donate to our travel fund or to our nonprofit work here at the radio station?
Well, yeah, if you click on the links on our donation page, it'll go directly to a PayPal link. If it came back, it meant it actually didn't go through, because I actually haven't sent any donations back because no one said I demand my donation back. So check with that. If you need some more assistance, maybe email one of us and we can help you through the process. But
Yeah.
I assure you that we haven't been messing around with that. Once we get a donation, especially when it's electronic, you get a receipt, within a couple of days after you send it. So I'll check. I'll look tonight after the show and check and see if there's anything that was a little bit weird on our electronics there. And please just send us a message and we'll help you through the process.
Thank you very much for the info on that. I'm sure other people will find it very useful. Let me dive right in because as the Border Support Network has been the place of convergence for many of these nonprofits and activist groups and all of these Border Support Network people, is on their Facebook page, and it gives you insight into who they're working with. One of those groups is the Hecate Society. You may remember that during the standoff with federal police in Tijuana that lasted for 6 days, that had all of those Antifa American activists messing things up for the police there, and messaging that the police were hateful and racist and xenophobic, and that they dehumanized the migrants that were inside that shelter. All for photo op, all for propaganda, right? Well, that same Hecate Society is posted in the Border Support Network, and it links to a video asking for support for a shelter in Tijuana. And there's a video of that shelter, and we're going to watch a little bit of it right now so you can see what they're asking about or talking about. It says the viento y marea comedor against viento y marea. You can turn that music down. The kitchen started in February. It is a kitchen for migrants, for the ones already in Tijuana. That's Al-Mufakir. Did you see that man that was standing there talking?
Yeah.
This is a community lunchroom. We serve meals 3 times a day. We have a small donation center where we give people support with shoes and clothes and hygiene, and that's the kind of help we give out.
A lot of folks who come here are just with a backpack on. They don't have any food, they don't have any material support, but with this kitchen here, Contra Viento y Marea de Comedor, what it provides for folks is a little bit of humanity.
What we're doing is running from our corrupt countries that don't give us opportunities, that starve us to death. We came in the caravan, suffering, walking thousands and thousands of miles just to get here. And thank God we made it. I was fleeing my country because of gangs. They threaten to kill you, they kill your family, they kill you just because you don't want to pay them what they ask. That's not just happening in Honduras, it's happening in a lot of countries. El Salvador, Haiti, Venezuela. We came to work, most of us did. We just want to help our families and also running away from anything that might happen to us back in our countries. The truth is, things back in our country right now aren't working out for us, and I think of my children first. I want a better future. The truth. That's why I decided to come. I don't care the suffering I've had to endure on the road. If I know that they're going to be fine, I'll risk everything.
One of the things that's most important about this work is that you don't know where people are going to end up, and organizing a vulnerable group like that means that you have to offer so much more dignity and respect for every single person you meet, because they could be kidnapped tomorrow, they could be deported, they could be taken by the police, they could end up in immigration, all these incredibly difficult situations.
Hemos como logrado crear una comunidad con todas las personas que estamos como voluntarias acá. Somos como 10 personas.
There's about 10 of us that are volunteers, but we feel like a family because we can be together. We treat each other like brothers and sisters. We're on a team. We're helping people that need them, that have hunger. It's not a stable thing yet, but it's just starting. So we need support. So more people join. Every day, El Comedor feeds 150 migrants who arrived in Tijuana from the caravans. Between the end of 2018 and the beginning of 2019, around 10,000 of these migrants made their way to the U.S.-Mexico border. Only a small number of people are able to cross into the U.S., but the crisis is getting worse and more refugees are arriving every day, including those deported or forced to remain in Mexico during the asylum process. And I don't know if that's it, but I think it might be it. I don't know. It's something weird. See? No.
All the time.
Oh, there's some more.
People that are committed to coming to the ground to bring donations or sending support in other ways, financially, materially. Yeah, there's all these different ways in which people can plug in, and if you're an herbalist, you're needed. If you're a medic, you're needed. But also if you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist, you're needed. If you know how to make shoes, you're needed. I think there's space in this movement for everyone, and what would really make an effective counter strategy against the militarization of the border in Tijuana is to have a cohesive network of support that is wide-ranging and that is committed to being there.
We wanted to thank people for the donations so that we can live here. I'm very thankful with the Americans that have supported us. They're with help and clothes and things. We're really thankful for all of that. And we're thankful that have helped us, that send us donations, that we need them to keep doing that and really need their help. If it wasn't for the help of people to donate, it says GoFundMe.com. We hope with your help for the kitchen, we can keep the kitchen running. And in Contra Viento y Marea TJ. Okay, so they have a website. They've got videos being made about them. This is interesting because this is a bunch of migrants, supposedly. But we know that some of those people were escorts, in air quotes. In Mexico, they call those kind of people coyotes.
Yep.
The people that escort migrants. But we know that the folks that are with this particular comedor, it's supposed to be a not a restaurant, but like a soup kitchen, a kitchen basically.
Okay.
But yet the people that are saying thank you, they're like, thank you for the donations so we can live here. Do you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
So we can live here. So maybe they're using it also as living quarters. I suspected that, like Enclave Caracol, that was the case for some people,
Yep.
And there was a screen capture of that. There it is. BSN Hecate video screen capture right there. That shows you. Oh, wait. Sorry. That was the first one we showed that posted that posted it. So who is helping at these locations? The other place I showed you was called the bridge, El Puente, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Douglas Oviedo, who started a band by that name, along with Adam Elfers. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, this is a picture of this building, of the building called El Puente, the other shelter that has been promoted, that is being promoted in the Border Support Network in Tijuana. And look who's in the picture. Well, a woman named Sarah Sandoval posted this on a page called CHEP, CHEP, a safe place for migrant families to thrive, not just survive. And it is being advertised, this Puente shelter, for children and women, folks. Get this, it's for children and women. The reason that this freaks me out and disturbs me so is because I recognize two of the people in this picture. Oscar would recognize them as well. One of them looks like the guy with the waves on his shirt is the oatmeal dude. He's the Chespirito guy. He's Mitch Verderer. At least he looks like that guy to me. If I am mistaken, I will apologize for my mistake. He does look a lot like him. And the other guy is the tall guy with the glasses, the same hat, and he's always worn his cigarette in his ear, and he's wearing a purple shirt next to the Mexican dude with the bright blue shirt in the middle of this photo. Is none other than the guy that was accused of kidnapping an unaccompanied minor from the Agape shelter, folks. This guy, River Doherty. who the pastor at the Agape shelter said he called the cops on, who we saw video footage and photos of in the Mexican media, had been accused of taking a child. Pastor Albert Rivera said that the activists from the Border Support Network, including River Doherty, that these folks that were in the migrant caravan were hanging out with, were also providing them drugs, including marijuana and methamphetamine. This is what he told the media. He also told it to us here at a Mexican crossing lines. I find it very disturbing that at a shelter in Tijuana, specifically for the most vulnerable among the migrants, who are women and children, they're going to have a guy that's been accused of being part of the activist group that provided drugs to the migrants at the Agape shelter, according to Pastor Albert from the Border Support Network, and also being involved personally in kidnapping a minor child from his shelter under his care. River Doherty, right there in the picture. And also the other guy, he assaulted an American blogger that was reporting on what these folks were doing at the border and volunteering as they were for Al Otro Lado, sending people to go to Enclave Caracol, their headquarters. If you don't know who Al Otro Lado is, they're the crooked lawyers that were doing fake marriages in Tijuana. So, folks, here is who is helping. These are the people that are involved, and it bothers me because I know that they've been accused of doing some horrific things. I've brought you evidence when I was in Tijuana with Oscar. We showed you evidence that they were doing practicing law in Mexico, that they had contracts that they made with people in Mexico at Enclave Caracol. And I also showed you that these folks are constantly fundraising. The same people that brought those migrants to the Agape shelter, those activists from the United States, they also were fundraising, taking pictures on their poverty porn tourism tour of the kids, of the families there at the shelter, making videos, putting up GoFundMes and saying, send us money, we're going to give it to these poor migrants. And as according to the pastor, I should check in with him again. Maybe he's changed his answer since the last time I talked to him. And he finally got some of the money that they were fundraising off of his shelter and the migrants in his facility off of. But I doubt it. Here's another one of Kei Kurimoto's GoFundMes requesting money for El Puente, right? Mm-hmm. They're helping to fund a lot of the shelters. Meanwhile, Mexico has the Mexican government, including the administration of President AMLO, have said that they are committed to reducing the trafficking of women and children and smuggling and those who are doing it. And one of the ways in which they are planning to crack down on this phenomenon is to be in charge of the shelters where they will be staying. I heard that in Baja California, that's what's going to happen. And so a lot of these pop-up shelters run by American activists connected to the Border Support Network and the supply of smugglers and the group smuggling folks, I think that they're going to, especially if this is something that happens across Mexico, they're going to find it harder to make money off of this mass migration, off of this caravanization of migration. And Douglas Oviedo, the guy that says that he's the one, he's in the band, He was, at the Viento y Marea shelter. He was at the Agape shelter. Then they all left, and now he's getting to run his own shelter. And he posted about this on his page. I'm going to read this to you in English. We are updating our work at the shelter, The Bridge. I can say that has not been at all easy, but it has been the best that we could do to get through this period. We as migrants, because as migrants, we have a lot of limitations on our travels through this experience. I could write a lot of things that have happened to me, but specifically on this post, I'm going to cover this beautiful project that is based on love of your neighbor. It is humanitarian aid that demonstrates that we are all brothers and sisters, and that we need to lift each other up and be lifting up as migrants, as a community, with the example of so many special people in the Haitian community. If they could do it, we can too. They're referring to the thousands of Haitians that came to Tijuana and have now been living there for years. It is for this reason that we are challenged by the same need to start this shelter that has as its name the shelter home, The Bridge. From that day forward, we spoke about it with another migrant, Michael Rodriguez, and after that with Reneiro Lainez. Okay, now if you don't remember, Reneiro Lainez was the older man that was called the spokesperson of the people that were staying at Viento y Marea and that had the standoff with the federal police. I know because he has a really weird name and I remember it. That's the dude. It was his son, Reneiro Lainez, that made a death threat against the boy that received drugs from the activists and that was kidnapped by these activists.
Okay, yeah.
Including River Doherty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, folks? That's the kind of shenanigans we're dealing with here. I'm not saying Reneiro is also a bad dude. What I will say about him is that his son was accused of threatening to kill an unaccompanied minor because that kid told on them and said that they were getting drugs from the activists. And two, they all took off because the activists rounded him up when the pastor said, you know what? The people here that are threatening this child need to go right now. And the people that are using drugs, you're also going to have to leave. And the migrants, including Reneiro Lainez and his son, one of the people that threatened to kill that boy and silence him for good, they all called these activists that were providing them with drugs, including this child, and said, come over. This pastor is trying to tell us what to do in his own shelter. And in come the activists, and they took about 20 people away all in the middle of the night. You remember that, Duke?
I sure do.
Mm-hmm. And then Lolly B did a video, and they were like, we had to get them out of there because that pastor put people's lives at risk.
Yeah.
Right? Well, it goes on to say that, this guy is also in on this shelter. We decided, I just don't know if they have what I'm trying to say is that there was another situation in which there was a child, an unaccompanied minor, in fact, involved, and they didn't handle it very well. That's all I'm saying, right? And so he goes on to say that we decided that we were going to do this ourselves to help our own people. So I started to write up a project, and then we got together with the first person, Una Valle, who decided that she would donate a little seed for us to find a house that we could rent to rehabilitate the space. But it was not easy because as migrants, we don't have the proper documents to even rent a house here. The owners of the house were closing the doors on us when they knew that it was going to be for a shelter for migrants. But despite all of this, we kept on looking and presenting our project to some of our friends who could help us. These friends are Aida Silva, Soraya Vasquez, Edgar Juan Balam, Florice Vasquez, among others. We managed to find a space, a house with 3 bedrooms, a huge living room, a kitchen, and on top of all of that, a very nice one. But it was in bad shape. We made out poorly, We made out poorly because we gave a certain part of our money to the guy as a deposit toward the rent of the space that later his father told us he wouldn't rent to us because we were migrants. It was a really sad situation because up until now, we are still waiting for them to return that money that we put down for the deposit on that place. But we still kept looking because we knew that our people needed us. Days later, after we were looking for a house, I got some advice from a good friend, Edgar Juan Balam, who told me, Douglas, let's have some patience with these things. Good things will come to those who wait. And that is how it occurred. We decided to wait for a good opportunity that arrived just days after. We got the notification that there was a very large space, a little off the beaten path, by a friend and defender of human rights of migrants, Soraya Vasquez, who helped put us in contact with some beautiful people that facilitated this beautiful space to us. And many don't know, and a space that many already know was not in good conditions or habitable. But thanks to the help of some friends like Joshua Nichols, River Agua Fresca, they changed his name to River Agua Fresca. Yeah. We know who that is.
Yep.
George, he don't have a last name. Andrea Satarain. Well, where's Mitchell? And we have been able to begin fixing this place up for ourselves. It will be a home for many women and children who are seeking a place for them to sleep, eat, rest while they await their court dates for their asylum hearings to go into the United States. To all of those who arrive in Tijuana from our Central American countries and from other parts of the world, and for us who are a bridge to our brothers, Adam Elfers, Una Valle Sara Sandoval, Jake Lee, among other donators that strengthened our team, with all of them from this beautiful city that has sheltered thousands of migrants, which is Tijuana. Aida Silvia, Soraya Vasquez, Gilberto Conde, and his wife, plus other migrants like Michael Rodriguez, Reinero, Lainez, and myself. We're here. We're going to keep working together as a community. Thanks to everyone that has made this possible. We have a signed contract by migrants in Tijuana, which is historical for a new homeowner, for a new home for migrants, excuse me. We want to keep giving you information with your support. Since we still have a lot to work on, if you'd like to make a donation, here is a link to our GoFundMe, and many blessings. Okay, so one of the people helping them is Sandoval. And here is a video of their efforts to fix this building, to set up a shelter there for the migrants. The shelter will be called El Puente. It's not going. It's stuck.
Yeah. So good morning, guys. Good afternoon. Good night. Whatever the time you guys are seeing this video. We're here at the refugee center of El Puente. Right now, Douglas is who's directing all this with his vision, and he already got a house for to build a refugee center for right now for women and children, and we're here at stage 2, let's say. There's already people who brought or who's collaborating by donating wood for the roof. There's already people who committed to bring some bunk beds, and but Douglas had a great vision for this place. It's a big place, and all the spaces are already thinking what to do on them. And basically, we're just here to ask Douglas what does he need right now, right?
Ujú.
So, Douglas, ¿qué es lo que necesitamos ahorita? Ya les expliqué cómo el proyecto, nada más qué es lo que necesitamos.
Project
Ok,
Spot
hola,
now.
buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es Douglas Oviedo, soy uno de los coordinadores
I'm one of the
de lo que es
coordinators.
la Casa Hogar El Puente, ¿verdad? Que
My
muy
name is
pronto,
Douglas.
pues, va a ser lo que es un albergue para
This will be a
centroamericanos,
shelter
para
for
personas
Central
migrantes que vienen
Americans
del sur hacia
that
las
come
fronteras.
from
Y pues acá estamos,
the south.
tenemos muchas necesidades en este momento, gracias a
We need a
Dios.
lot of things.
Tenemos ya lo que es el comprometido el techo con algunas personas que
We
ya nos han prometido esto, que primeramente
promise-
Dios en estos días viene.
We have
y todo,
people
pero
coming to
ahorita
fix the
estamos
roof,
trabajando lo que es la segunda parte, que
but we
ya
need the
lo
second
que es
part.
el comedor y lo que es la cocina en la parte de atrás.
So we're
That'll
gonna
be the
build
kitchen
a
in the back part
place to
there.
eat over here, a dinner place, and a kitchen back over there.
Y también pues ahorita estamos necesitando lo que es cemento,
We also need cement,
lo que es madera para poder levantar el techo,
lumber
los parales
to put the roof up.
de ambos lados y todo para así de esa manera pues que la cocina y el comedor se miren más fuerte.
So right now we're in need of materials, basically concrete to do the floor, and wood to build the walls for bricks.
También vamos a necesitar lo que es pintura.
We also need paint.
Porque también igual la casa también necesita pintura también. Ocupamos también lo que es tablayeso, ¿verdad? Y, pues,
Sheetrock.
Sheetrock,
todos
yeah.
los materiales y pues de igual forma también el zinc de la parte de arriba, lo que es el techo.
And we need a sink, and basically this is a blessing that Douglas is doing over here, and a lot of people is collaborating right now, and we just need a little bit more help. If you guys are able to donate with materials or with money. I'm not quite sure how, but I'm pretty quite sure you're gonna be able to see it on the status. There's gonna be a link on the status, and help us to continue building this bridge.
So that's one of their videos where, this is a guy who was working with the folks that were escorting, in quotes. In Mexico, like I said, they call it coyotes. The caravan, which is, includes Oviedo. He's one of the guys, right? They end up going from shelter to shelter, forming bands. They're always well dressed. They're always in the fundraising pictures. They're always eating pizza out with these guys, having a blast, making fun videos at the beach. They're obviously well taken care of, which begs the question, why are some people getting preferential treatment among the migrants? And also, how does he afford this dream? Like, Central American migrant dude. Well, of course, it's because they have the support of the American activists. And not just the support, but the impetus. It is the American activists connected to all of these organizations that were working with the smugglers that are making money and profit off of this, that need these shelters to go up, that need these shelters to be run by them because they're part of that smuggling operation. They're in the chain. And one of those pieces and parts are where the migrants end up. They can either be preyed upon by organizations like Pueblos Sin Fronteras, like Al Otro Lado, or the Border Angels, etc. Or the shelter can keep those kinds of people out and say, no, they can't come here. As Pastor Albert Rivera has said to Al Otro Lado lawyers, they can't come there. They're not allowed there. And another person who, in my opinion, is in it for their own profile is actress Madeline Kelly Merritt and Estefania Rebelon. These two actresses are now teaming up on this post from July 11th, in which July 31st, in which Madeline Kelly Merritt, an actress, also with LA Divest, that works closely with Jay Ponte. She was the one that created Activate Now, the platform that Ed Higgins was a correspondent for at Standing Rock. Mm-hmm. And she says she is still in deep reflection after having watched Estefania Rebelon's moving film Al Otro Lado. She has captured the harrowing journey across the Sonoran Desert, the humanity and courage of many young women who face unimaginable hardship to make the journey. The film is up for an Image Foundation Award. Please follow the link in the comments to view this stunning film and vote for her today. She is truly an inspiration as a creative, an actress, and an incredibly dedicated activist as well. Support her work in film and in community. So Estefania Rebelon, who works with people from Al Otro Lado, who works with the Minority Humanitarian Foundation, who was fundraising for a really long time for a bus that until very recently didn't even make it to Tijuana to help the children that she had fundraised for it to help. But as you saw in Oscar El Blue Ramirez's report from that shelter, they were going to have this bus basically parked next to Caritas shelter so that the kids could have some kind of distraction during the day since they're not going to school. Mm-hmm. Right? And here is Stefania Rebelon excitedly talking about the screening of her film. Here's a clip of that video. She's so proud.
Hi everyone, I'm down here at the screening for On the Other Side. We are so excited, and thank you to everybody that's come out so far. We are going to start a screening at 8 p.m. So if you're still making your way over to the screening. Oh, hey, yeah, come on up.
Look at those massive
come on
chandeliers.
Up, come right this way up.
Swanky.
Sorry, some of the actors are getting here. So yeah, we're just getting ready to do the screening, and we are so excited. Again, if you want to vote for our movie, go to the link that I'm going to be posting right below, and please help us win. The only way that we can win is with your vote. So we are so grateful to everybody, and I want to show you guys what the screening space looks like. It's a beautiful place here in downtown Los Angeles, and I just want to show you guys. One of the actors just got here, so let me see where he's at. Eduardo? Yeah. Yeah, just come up this way.
I don't want to get first.
Huh?
I don't want to get first. Take my job real serious.
Yeah, so one of the actors is getting here. He plays Gomez. I'm doing a live stream on Facebook right now. This is Eduardo. He plays Gomez, and this
¿Cómo
is
están todos?
Yes,
This is Adelita.
Adelita. So yeah, come on in. We're gonna go to the screening area. So everybody watching, is really important that you guys go vote on the link that I'm going to be posting down below, so we can get your votes and win this amazing award. The Imagen Awards are from the Imagen Foundation, and what they do is that they promote and encourage Latino filmmakers to make stories that portray us in a good light and portray us truthfully and authentically, and not the stereotypes that you usually see on television. Hey Michelle, thank you for all the likes, and hey everybody, thank you for watching. I want to show you guys. Hey, I'm live on Facebook right now. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Here's Kyle. Say hi.
Hey everybody. How's it
I
going?
want to flip it over and show you guys the lounge area where some of the guests are here already.
Look at that.
So I'm doing live on Facebook right now. Hi. Hey, this is Alex. He was one of the actors that we had, the only kid actor that we had. And this is Myra. Saluda. She's the co-lead of the film. There's the poster. This is her parents. And here is Jason too. Say hey. Wara, the beautiful host of this evening. Marco's here as well. So we're getting ready for the screening. Here we got some popcorn and let me show you guys the screening room. Es que estoy haciendo un video. Okay. Permite, paso por aquí. So let me show you guys the screening room. Right here is our poster for the film. So again, if you guys are voting, please go
poster of
vote right
migrants
now.
getting arrested by
And
Border Patrol.
in about 10 minutes, we're going to start the screening in this beautiful area. It's a private screening room, and we are just so excited and so grateful that we were able to have this space tonight. Shout out to Wyra for hosting us here, and we are about to get started, but I want to really...
Okay, that's enough of her.
Enough of her.
She's definitely going to exploit all of this. She wasn't just going to go down there because she's a Latina that's worried about babies or families that are stranded in Tijuana. She's going to play them in a movie that she obviously definitely wants to get an award for, that is portraying Mexicans, or that is portraying this caravanization of migrants and migration authentically, quote unquote, as she said. Right? That's what she's supposed to be getting the award for. Mm-hmm. How authentic is it when this is one of the people that was fundraising to put a school in El Barretal 2 weeks before it closed?
Yeah.
Who was called a fraud by one of the other Al Otro Lado volunteers, what was her name? Sofia Marie de Loreto Churi.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
But, the one that worked for Nanette Barragan.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So there they are. Here they are, proudly, the two lead roles, proudly next to their posters, movie posters, that show them all dirty in the desert, looking very much like they're Mexican migrants, or, migrants moving through the desert.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's authentic. This is authentic, right? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Estefania Myron Dewey weighed in recently on digital smoke signals about how we can make America great again. And would you read what he had to say, Duke, please?
Oh, great. Myron Dewey, digital smoke signals. How do we make America great again? We have to dismantle the American dream built on the atrocities of indigenous peoples, stolen lands, genocide, indoctrination, forced education, and many broken promises since Lewis and Clark to current presidency. America's wealth was also built on slavery and murder of humans kidnapped, taken, stolen from their own indigenous lands. We cannot take people further than ourselves consciously. Until then, only will you understand our pain. Only then we can start the healing and rebuild the America atrocities to your so-called the American dream. If you call yourself an American, you carry that responsibility. And you can start by honoring your forefathers' promises to us. If you don't know, we're still here to remind you in a good way. Myron Dewey, protect the sacred through indigenous eyes.
You know, I was following along with my eyes as you were reading that, and I kept looking at you because I kept listening intently and then looking over at you because it did not sound like you were making any sense. It
I know,
sounded
it's hard
like
to read.
it sounded like a word salad of nonsense. So I kept looking at the dialogue at the post itself just to make sure that I wasn't mishearing or you weren't misreading it. But that really was what it said, folks. And if it didn't make sense to you, join the club.
Exactly.
Didn't understand. But there are these folks who are very politically connected, powerful, like Myron Dewey and his wife, Deborah Parker, Estefania Rebelon, Kei Kurimoto. These are the people actually funding these convergences. These are the people that are promoting the message and that are funding these convergences. So they're weighing in. They're telling everyone else who are their followers, who follow native media, who follow what's going on in Indian country, or that want to know what's happening with protest movements and actions in progressive circles. And people like Myron Dewey and people like Estefania Rebelon and people like Kei Kurimoto and, you know, all of the Border Support Network people that you've seen in Tijuana, including River Doherty and Mitch Verder and Joshua Nichols, all of these folks, Lolly B, Jake Lee Harris, all of them, they are the standard bearers with all their followers and friends that signal this is how we do it. This is how we're going to talk about Tijuanenses, for example. We're going to say that they are nationalist, racist, xenophobes, like we do to people who want to talk about border security or want to talk about loopholes in our asylum process. In the United States, we just do that. We'll just call them racist, and we'll say, oh, you know, if you're a MAGA hat wearer, then you're basically a Nazi. And I want to read to you before I move to the next slide, a tweet by Reza Aslan. I was going to have it as a graphic, but I totally forgot about it. But it was really important to the point of what I was talking about with regard to the gun deaths in our country and the recent mass shootings. And I said that it would be important to look at where these anti-fascist groups began and who started them, like Say No to Fascism. And one of those key people was Chase Iron Eyes. Another key person there was the other underground terrorist Bill Ayers. And finally, I mentioned that Michael A. Wood Jr. was on that list. There were many others on the list, but those are key because they were involved in Standing Rock, These were the same people that were involved in falsely putting charges on Kathleen Bennett, the case that I investigated for over a year, and putting her elderly Oglala Lakota mother in an early grave. So yeah, I wanted to know what the hell they were doing forming this group called Say No to Fascism. And they've had a very strong stance about anybody speaking smack about anti-fascists. And I said, you know, this was formed right as the President of the United States was inaugurated. And they immediately launched into a campaign to impeach, right? That was Evan Duke that was heading up that campaign, right? And I talked about how even these mass shootings of late were being put into these terms where it was fascists or it was anti-fascists, they're terrorists or they're white supremacist terrorists, and you have to pick a side. And this is where we are, folks. Reza Aslan tweeted that today, and he tweeted this on August 4th, right after the shootings. After today, he said, there is no longer any room for nuance. The president is a white nationalist terror leader. His supporters, all of them, in all caps, are by definition white nationalists, terrorist supporters. The MAGA hat is a KKK hood, and this evil, racist scourge must be eradicated from society. Eradicated. You know what that word is, right?
Yeah. Killed,
disposed of, removed, right? That is what is being messaged by the people that are icons, celebrities, influencers, indigenous leaders, spokespersons, models, musicians, actresses, entertainers, politicians. And what they're telling you is increasingly lunatic, fringe. It's increasingly triggering and button pushing. Chase Iron Eyes recently posted that he too is now concerned, and posted this just today, that he is concerned about that secret government list that is targeting activists and journalists, and he wants everyone to know that, guess what? BuzzFeed News has reported that people are looking into that investigation by government agencies like the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and Border Patrol. And in this BuzzFeed article, you can see it's titled "A Secret U.S. Government List Targeting Journalists and Activists is more expansive investigation." Could you read that subhead there, Duke?
Not really, but I'll try. Government surveillance that targets journalists, individuals providing legal services
to migrants
is absolutely unacceptable. Senator Tom Udall said.
Mm-hmm. And in this article, which I will give you a link to so you can go read it for yourself, it basically says that an investigation into whether immigration officials had violated policies when they created the list was announced by Customs and Border Protection in March. But a July 15 letter to Senator Tom Udall of New Mexico from Jennifer Costello, the acting inspector general of the Department of Homeland Security, said the agency is also investigating allegations of harassment faced by people on the database and whether CBP complied with U.S. law. In the letter, Costello said a team of investigators, analysts, and attorneys are looking into the list, which was leaked to San Diego NBC's affiliate. Quote, "We plan to review the leaked document in order to determine why it was created, what it is used for, and what happened to the people named on it," Costello said in the letter, which was obtained by BuzzFeed News. "We also anticipate reviewing other specific allegations of targeting and or harassment of lawyers, journalists, and advocates, and evaluate whether Custom and Border Patrol's actions complied with law and policy. At the end of the day, though, it is Department of Homeland Security who is investigating Border Patrol and or vice versa, but they're investigating themselves as to why they created a list of people that they have been investigating, which I have been saying from the very beginning is because of their involvement with the Border Support Network and the people being investigated for human smuggling, Pueblos Sin Fronteras. I guess I just said it again. The letter, of course, comes after Senators Udall, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Richard Blumenthal have all demanded answers on these databases, on this list. And, you know, they continue to make bold statements that they will not tolerate Border Patrol and Homeland Security and the FBI investigating things improperly.
Yeah.
And if they find out there's some shenanigans going on, they're going to crack down on this.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, you know, I think it's funny that Chase would post that given the fact that Chase has gotten a bunch of people arrested at Standing Rock. Chase took part in the Nathan Phillips hoax that took place at the Indigenous Peoples March, where Nathan Phillips confronted a group of Catholic school kids, many of them wearing MAGA hats, and then proceeded to cry and said that they were racist to him after he went up to them and banged a drum in their faces. And, you know, this whole group of people, it was all a very well orchestrated theatrical production, much like what Standing Rock turned out to be. We didn't know it at the time.
Nope.
But they can't tell you that it's all a theatrical production, because then they would be on the line, and a political stunt, because then they would be on the line financially for the millions of dollars that they cost the state after they came here. Millions. And over $30 million. And it's very much connected to their music, their movie, their documentary, their nonprofit org, their status, their travel agency, their humanitarian aid group or organization that's going to go places and you know, teach people on a bus, or you know, it's about these sometimes ludicrous personal pet projects of these mercenary activists and actors that is really what folks are investing in. And it is a sort of vanity, poverty, porn, tourism type of social activism that really turns my stomach on a personal level. Because as a Mexican crossing lines, as someone that has lived on both sides of the border, that has extensive family ties to Mexico, that has colleagues and friends that have gone through the caravanization of migration on both sides of the border and have been really turned off by the way that these mercenary imperialistic a-hole activists have come into Mexico and treated the people there and the authorities there and the government there. And, you know, again, I have to remind folks that it comes from a very American elitist place. I want to share a clip from Unicorn Riot that talks to you about how Antifa is connected to the music scene, to entertainment, and how, you know, they get their cool, their cachet, their cool cred points, street cred points from this history and what it means to be Antifa. Here's that clip. By the way, again, Unicorn Riot Media out at Standing Rock, one of the first and last.
2019 marked U.S. America's first anti-fascist extreme metal festival, Black Flags Over Brooklyn. Punks and metalheads of all ages came to New York City in January to attend the two-day music event and mini-anarchist book fair. we spoke with Daryl Lamont Jenkins, founder of One People's Project, about the confluence of extreme music such as metal and hardcore punk, and the politics of anti-Nazism and anti-fascism.
Before I am anti-fascist, I'm in the scene. I'm in the punk scene, I'm in the music scene in general, I'm in the culture. The culture always is going to come before my ideals, because it is my culture that inspires me to come up with the ideas to fight for that culture. So being here is pretty much my element. Being here is where we should all be, you know. I mean, everybody should remember that you are fighting for something, and it's not just always about the fight. It's always, sometimes it's about, you know, enjoying that which we fight for.
I don't think there's a show since we ever formed a band that we wanted to play more than this one. Because I want you to be with me here right now. I want you to feel the energy and the spirit in this room, the principle of this room, the vision in this room. Because this is not a show that we've ever played where we're thinking about who are the closet Nazis in the audience. Because if you're there, if you're here right now, if you want to be schooled, awesome. If not, you're a fucking dumbass.
The punk scene is where the modern day Antifa comes from. Anti-racist action was kicking all kinds of ass in Minneapolis, and the folks that started anti-racist action were coming out of the punk scene because they wanted to get their Nazis out of the punk scene. Same thing with FSU, Friends Stand United, or whomever you speak to, fuck shit up. Same thing happened with them in Boston. Nazis would come into the shows in Boston, they asked them to leave, effectively. So
Year and the next year.
well, you know, it's kind of like over the past 2 years, it's pretty much anti-fascists had to pretty much put their money where their mouth is. Because all the things that we have been warning people about have now started to come to fruition. Our mission now is to keep it from bearing even more fruit. So anti-fascism in 2019 means we fight harder. We fight like we've never fought before. And most importantly, we win. We have to win. We cannot lose this. And we won't. We're stronger than them. It doesn't look like it all the time, but we're stronger than them. So anti-fascism in 2019 means we get a hold of what's been going on over the past 2 years and we stop it.
It's telling.
Neckbread Death Camp is the next clip. It was a bunch of craziness. And I don't know how people of color are supposed to get invested in saving death metal from Nazis.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what they were asking you to do. Did you hear that?
Yep.
I hope that you didn't miss that was what that was about, because it seems like white people gentrify their own things. They're very territorial. They're like, I can't have you in my death metal concerts. I don't want you at my punk concert. And so they're like, you know, if you're wearing a Confederate flag, you're a Nazi, and obviously I have to get you out of this concert. That's what this all started about. And now they're saying he goes from that to being what's a mean to be an anti-fascist in the modern time right now. We got to go f stuff up. Mm-hmm. We got to go beat some brains in. You know, put your money where your mouth is, and we're going to win because we got to go out in the streets. Folks, anybody that is recommending that you go out in these streets to get your head bashed in is not your friend.
Yeah.
Whether they are telling you to go and punch a Nazi or they are telling you that you need to go and put down some white supremacist, they are not your friend. Disengage, abort. You need to retract yourself from the urge in America right now, in response to what they are telling you, is an urgent need for you to go and converge at these events and at these places because imminent danger, Will Rogers, is happening at the border. Really want to put you in very dangerous situations where, as I have shown you in the past, people do get hurt and even killed. Here is what was posted by Susie Desbot. Apparently, Native Americans are becoming anarchists and anti-fascists. What? Did you know?
Nope, I didn't know.
Yonazda is going to make Native Americans from Standing Rock join the Muslim religion. And also, they need to become anarchists and anti-fascists. So she posted the schedule, as you can see, for this Indigenous Anarchist Convergence event that is scheduled between August 14th and the 18th in Flagstaff, Arizona. And some of the things they're going to be talking about on the caravan on the 15th, they're going to be talking about the caravan to Talahugan Info Shop. I don't know what that means, if that's a building or whatever. Then on August 16th, they're going to talk about locating an indigenous anarchism. And they've got some indigenous governing council and Zapatista proposal thing. Another world is possible. You know the Zapatistas, right? They're from Chiapas. They have been trying to keep the violent government out of the parts of the state where they reside. And they've been doing a pretty good job in resisting for over a decade now. They also have organizing a panel, autonomous organizing against borders, the Otham Anti-Border Collective. That's from the Tohono O'odham tribe that I've been talking to you about. Right there on the border, they have a large number of their population that has had trouble with the law, that has priors for engaging in trafficking activities of people and things across the border and with the cartels the Tohono O'odham do. That is just part and parcel of what happens on one of the nation's poorest reservations that happens to share space on land that is now controlled by the drug cartels in Mexico. So it's quite shocking to see both this tribe and the Carrizo Come Crudo tribe working in tandem with groups and organizers that are part of Pueblos Sin Fronteras, or helping Pueblos Sin Fronteras, or escorting people from the caravan with Pueblos Sin Fronteras. This is set up for several days, and it is being promoted in the resistance group that is run, started by Evan Duke, the anarchist Antifa leader of the Border Support Network. So the Anarchist Convergence webpage has this screenshot of what they're going to be doing at this event. And, excuse me. Okay. At this event, it appears, that I can't get mine to come up as fast as yours did. Okay. Now I have it up. They're going to have a BIPOC. I don't know what that means. BIPIC? No. Geographies of Struggle and the Relevance of Decolonial Anarchy. Decolonial Anarchist. By the Selva Collective. Some very interesting things that they're going to be talking about. Harm reduction for the community. Against settler colonial politics. Locating an indigenous anarchism. And what is meant and what is not meant when we assert indigenous anarchism. I'd never even heard of this, Duke. Organizing for radical spaces, and anti-colonial struggle means attack. So they have a lot of different workshops that you can attend at this event on their website. You can go check it out. Excuse me. This is what is being promoted. And this is separate from that other tour that is happening in multiple cities that was promoted by Antifa and the Hecate Society and the other, the group called It's Going Down. Well, one of the people that is in this picture that is very important to this shelter and many other actions connected to all of these folks is Sarah Sandoval. She posted her work with Douglas Oviedo and from her homepage, saying, so I took my childhood friend Yvonne to CHEP, and of course she jumped into action. She told her husband Daryl about the house, the Puente house is what they're talking about, the shelter. In a matter of weeks, Daryl was there delivering materials and supplies. He donated tools, sink, windows, chandelier, and more. So grateful to them and all the good people that are and will make this project become a reality. Please join us in making this remarkable place an oasis of love for migrant families. Okay, with Douglas and McCoy. And it shows a lot of the, donated supplies. That is the picture, by the way, with Sarah Sandoval, that has River Doherty in it and the other guy, Mitchell Verder. What is this CHAP thing? Well, Sarah Sandoval did a fundraiser, a CHAP fundraiser for the Puente shelter. You can see in that picture that is behind the cover picture for this fundraiser page is her and LaDonna.
Okay, yeah.
That's her and LaDonna. Here's an Instagram video. Does it show how much money they got? Or does it just say they created the fundraiser?
Yep, created the fundraiser.
Okay. But doesn't it say over to the right at the top anywhere?
No.
How much?
No. Oh.
Well, 18 people have donated, but it doesn't say how much.
No.
Okay. Anyway, she did some videos on her Instagram to show some of the progress, and she went there herself. Here's one of them. Friday, we got here late. We were really tired, but
so in 5 days, they created this platform, and this is where the kitchen's going to be. There's going to be a kitchen on that side, and this whole area is going to be an open space. It's going to be their eating space. So it's going to be open so that they can be outside, so the fresh air is coming in while they eat together. It's going to be a communal space where people can gather and just enjoy their food. And the rest of the house is going to be dorms. They're going to just leave the rest of the house for beds and that kind of shelter. So, yay! ¿Qué más?
Y pues, bueno, solamente esperando nada más lo que es la ayuda del techo.
We need to help her with the materials for the roof. So then she did this other video. I hope it's not as windy as that one. That was kind of awful. I apologize for the windiness, but she didn't cover up her microphone, so we have that.
Douglas was talking about how they had a difficult week because there's so much work to be done, but it was also a very beautiful week because they actually were able to stay here on the property with these tents that were donated. And these tents were donated by Bertie Gutierrez, beautiful angel, I love you. And so they were able to stay here and just get up early in the morning and start working on the house. As you can see, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, especially the roof. So if we can continue the fundraiser that is going to help with this, and we can get the roof done and just continue the work until this house is ready to receive families and give them shelter.
So if you need a tent hookup, Bertie Gutierrez of Bridges of Love Across Borders, also of the Caritas Shelter, working with Minority Humanitarian Foundation and Families Belong Together, and I could go on and on inside the Border Support Network. That that also work with Al Otro Lado and Pueblos Sin Fronteras. That is the birdie that gave the tent. And she is also somebody wasn't just recently in Tijuana working with all these folks and isn't just friends with LaDonna, as you saw in that picture. LaDonna posted that she was at the Indigenous Peoples March on her page. And if you recall, she was in Teen Vogue magazine. She was one of the people featured in that magazine article that we featured when we did the shows about Nathan Phillips.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And who was there? And who was promoting the whole Nathan Phillips hoax thing? It was these same people from Standing Rock. And then, of course, Sandoval is pictured here with that guy standing next to her whose name is Matias. Matias. You remember this guy in the scarf, the red scarf with the big glasses there?
Yeah.
Does he look familiar?
Oh, definitely.
And I'll show you why, and you'll see why in a minute. You'll go, I remember. Sandoval was also present with LaDonna at the UN at the 18th session of the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. And she was not just, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see some of the pictures that they took at the UN, and they talk about no man camps, missing and murdered Indigenous women. This was for 2019, okay? This was recent. And you can see she's pictured in that first picture at the very top with LaDonna. There's LaDonna. So she was there with her. And if you see in this next picture of that same photo, just a little bit bigger and on its own, there's that Matias guy.
Okay.
This time he's not wearing the hat, but he's got on the same vest, right, and the glasses. You recognize him.
Yeah.
And then here is LaDonna and Sarah Sandoval and this Cliff Matias. Here's Cliff Matias at the UN listening. Look what he's wearing. What's on the back of his jacket?
Red rum.
He's from the motorcycle club, Red Rum, that together with Chase run the Page nonprofit group, the Indigenous Peoples March and the Indigenous Peoples Movement.
Yep.
And he ran the security for Deb Haaland, Congresswoman Deb Haaland, at the march, if you recall.
Yep.
And of course, here is Cliff Matias. Guess who else who made it to the UN? Nate Phillips. Nathan Phillips is there as well.
Wow.
Yeah. They all roll together. They show up at the same places together and do the same things. Here is Sarah in New York talking about how she went to a Daughters of the Mother Earth event with women leaders. What women leaders? LaDonna. This is in April of this year. So if you scroll down, you'll see that she is indeed with LaDonna in New York and some other women for this other event. LaDonna has entourage, will travel. And she travels with a lot of these women worldwide. They've gone to Portugal, they've gone to Spain, they've gone to Europe, they've gone to the UK, they've gone to Germany. They've been tripping the light fantastic on someone's dollar to go and dazzle people in their jingle skirts and, their Native American garb and collect donations on behalf of Mother Earth or what have you. And Sarah doesn't just think LaDonna is the bee's knees. She also loves her some Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth and the Freshet. In fact, she posted this series of pictures from some article in ADA Media Med Meta. And it featured people like Winona LaDuke and LaDonna, as well as Faith Spotted Eagle and Red Warrior Camp plus Bernie Sanders campaign, plus the WPLC's Tara Houska is also featured in those photos, in the photo lineup. Many of the same people that we have been talking about since Standing Rock. Sandoval is also pictured here with LaDonna at her most recent location where they hung out, Mauna Kea. Because, yeah, she was there.
Yeah.
She was hanging out at Mauna Kea with LaDonna in Hawaii. I told you that there was a bunch of people that were involved with LaDonna that were going to go out to Mauna Kea. And they had celebrities that went out there. Jason Momoa, also The Rock. And LaDonna got to talk with The Rock. She was super proud of it. She posted it on her Facebook page. She got to meet The Rock. And then, you know, here they are protesting together, Sarah Sandoval and LaDonna, at another event. And Sarah Sandoval is carrying a sign that is in Portuguese about Brazil. Okay? So, they hang out. They hang out, and so do Sandoval and Bertie Gutierrez and many of these other folks that I am showing you. Here's a short video from her Instagram of a recent protest you might recognize from listening to the audio. The person that you'll be hearing that was speaking at this protest about Border Patrol and ICE detention facilities is none other than Bertie Gutierrez.
Okay.
Take a listen, see if you recognize her voice.
Has to stop now! We are here to demand that the Trump administration release the children and the families from the horrid, cruel, vile, and abhorrent concentration camps and to unite the families now!
Government.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember that video.
And who else was there? Mohammed El Nakib. That's with the Rapid Response Network of San Diego, that works with Mark Lane, that works with Linda Sarsour of the Women's March, and Paola Mendoza, Family Belong Together. And it's just a giant circle of people, a vast network of powerful, politically connected, moneyed people. And they have these brown faces that they're using that are representing and connecting money and power to their projects that they are running for and with these activists in Mexico, on Mexican soil, telling the Mexicans what to do, how to do it, and how not to do it. Bertie and Sandoval are in this border Instagram post. You can see here that this is from her Instagram video I just shared with you, where she says, "This moment at the U.S.-Mexico border, as well as we all stood in unity listening to Bertie Gutierrez's powerful words, we will not accept a white supremacist government. Close the camps, hashtag close the camps, hashtag asylum seekers, migrant caravans. Children are sacred. Families belong together. Abolish ICE. Let them all in." All of those hashtags. So you see the commonality also in the messaging about let them all in. This is the kind of demands that they were making as they broke through gates in Mexico's southern border, as they assaulted, shot at, threw rocks at, broke windows out of border agents' in Mexico's vehicles and killed border agents. They had a right, let us in, let us all in. They did not want to be checked. They didn't want to do things with a background check. They didn't want to have to wait for a visa. They didn't want to get permission. They just wanted to come in. And they violated Mexico's southern border for far too long, in my opinion, before the president of Mexico was driven by plummeting, approval ratings to finally secure the southern border and put National Guardsmen on the river Suchiate's edge to make sure that people cannot just come in without being checked and without having to show. They're not, terrorists with warrants out in their own countries. They're not murderers. They're not rapists. They're not some kind of person that is, for whatever reason, lying to get into our country or to get into Mexico. And they do, these activists, they very much have an agenda. They are signaling to the rest of their followers and us what it is we're supposed to say, how it is we're supposed to feel. They put a brown face like Sarah Sandoval's and Oviedo, but the money and the power that's actually supplying all of these things comes from other places. Maybe Sarah Sandoval herself has a lot of money. I guess that she must to do the constant traveling that she does all around the world. But here is what her stance is on immigration. She posted this a while back.
Hi. I just want to take a moment to talk about the word immigrant and how it's used to identify people that come here from south of the border. I just want to say that for myself, I don't identify as an immigrant, and I don't look at my brothers and sisters that come here from south of the border as immigrants. And there are a lot of reasons why. There is the obvious reason, which is that that border has not always been here, but we have. And so that's something to think about. We have to think about the history of this continent and remember that colonizers came here and created that border. They divided this continent into sections and created the countries that we live in now. And yes, that is a reality. We are indigenous peoples of this continent living in different countries. And so we have to recognize that, and we also have to recognize that we are descendants of our ancestors that have been here much longer than that border. And so there's a lot of strength and beauty in that, and there is a lot of strength and beauty in indigenous peoples of this continent coming together and working towards making this land a more beautiful and peaceful place for everybody. So yes, that's a lot to think about. I know there's a lot of people that identify as immigrants and find a lot of pride in that, and I fully respect that. And I also encourage you to explore the history of this continent and find that connection that you have with your ancestors, because the reality is that we are indigenous to this continent, and that border is not.
So, are we still a country, or was there a coup that nobody told me about? Because I mean, she's like, I know that we are different countries now, but I'm still going to pretend we're not.
Yeah.
Because unless you overthrow this government, you can't just decide what rules you want to adhere to, what laws you want to follow, and which ones you don't, especially with regard to being able to come into this country with a criminal background with an agenda to affect our sovereignty or our politics or shift the power in our government, because that is considered a security threat. That's what it is. It's not just a migration of people. And there is an element of it may be small in comparison to the majority of the people who are just coming here to get jobs, who are literally just coming here to get jobs, not even really to seek asylum that they could, realistically lay claim to and get, but more just to get jobs. But there is an element of folks that know that while the opportunity is there, they could cross into the U.S. where previously they didn't stand a very good chance. And also the fact that many people are being motivated by folks like this woman and funded by folks like this woman to put up shelters in Mexico so that American activists can have zero transparency in how they treat migrants. It's a little bit disturbing. She also is a proponent of the eagle and condor prophecy. She posted this in December of 2018, and she hashtags it Turtle Island and Eagle and Condor. So she's talking about how, once again, the border didn't cross us, or we didn't cross the border crossed us, because she's Mexican. She identifies as Mexican, and also as indigenous, because most Mexicans are, or at least partially are. And but there's another message there that says that as indigenous people, as Mexicans from the United States, we get to tell Mexicans in Mexico what they can do with their country and how they're going to manage their shelters, or how they're going to deal with unaccompanied minors, or and American paid brown-faced Mexicans that are working with these organizations and nonprofits from the United States that promote some kind of politics or energy policy, or by some politician. They're succeeding in dominating, especially in Tijuana, where they're setting up all of these different shelters. And of course, here's a post by Bertie Gutierrez recognizing that this woman, Sarah Sandoval, once again came through with $300 for Leti Herrera, the manager of the Caritas shelter. And she thanks the donors and supporters of Bridges of Love Across Borders, as well as the Caritas shelter, which she runs with Mark Lane and Leti Herrera, because Leti Herrera is a Mexican. I noticed somebody asked how migrants are renting a house in Tijuana. And I suspect that a Mexican from Tijuana had to agree, or the homeowner decided that they would go ahead and lend it to someone that normally you would get in trouble to, not lend, rent. Yeah. Rent to someone that normally you could get in trouble to for renting to, because they don't have any legal status or work visa, or you don't really have a way of confirming whether or not they're just going to skip town next week.
That's right. Or damage things.
Right. And so most people would not rent to you. I suspect that the way that they have that signed contract is that one of the people, and it's probably not an American, it's probably got to be somebody that lives there that is from Tijuana, like Leti Herrera, that has agreed to work with these people, sight unseen, no background checks needed, and allowed them to work with vulnerable populations like women and children. So Bertie also gets donations from Sarah. In this next post, she is receiving items at the Caritas shelter. Looks like toys and snacks, and you can see there's a bunch of little kids there that are flip-flops and some laundry detergent, it looks like, or some other kind of washing agent. So she is part of that donation driving fundraising pipeline for folks in the upper echelons that are actually running the shelters. She's helping with the messaging, using her brown face to go and tell people in Mexico what they should be doing. Sandoval loves to message about what CBP means to her as a Mexican in the United States. Here on her post from July 10th, she says, "This is what I say when I see one of those nasty trucks." She's referring there to a Border Patrol truck. And she has this bag was gifted to me, by my friends at Seeding Sovereignty. It definitely starts conversations. It says, F the migra. La migra is basically Border Patrol. Immigration Services of the United States. F the migra, abolish ICE, migrant caravan, asylum seekers, love over hate. I couldn't see that first L. Love has no borders, shut down ICE, close the camps, and Seeding Sovereignty. Christina Nobis, Desiree Kane's friend, is one of the people that runs the platform Seeding Sovereignty, one of the many that came out of Standing Rock. Again, the connections, the tentacles back to those media creators, content creators, messengers, influencers from Standing Rock, leaders from Standing Rock, resonating throughout this border support network. And here, Bertie also thanks Darlene Sullivan and Sarah Sandoval once again for buying groceries for the third shelter we talked about tonight, Contra Viento y Marea. And she says they provide free food and for families seeking refuge. Bridges of Love Across Borders is grateful to donors to support the families, to support PayPal Bridges of Love Across Borders. And so Sarah Sandoval is busy handing out money and supplies and toys. She's like the shelter fairy.
Yep.
She goes from one shelter to another. She has time to go to Mauna Kea in between. And she goes here and there and special everywhere. Next, we have a special shout out to Bertie, Bridges of Love Across Borders, giving a special shout out to the special funders out there, the people that help her the most, one of which, of course, is Sarah Sandoval, who's donated and supported Love Has No Borders fundraisers. She said they donated $751 for Caritas Shelter and another $800 to Bridges of Love Across Border. And they purchased items for the mamas and the babies and the LGBTQ migrants and vulnerable families. And then she thanks other folks as well for all they do. But as you can see, I wanted to, not to belabor the point here, but I wanted to show you she is a top donor. She is one of those people that is donating to everyone. And she is bringing, in video, and she's using her large following on social media and her friends and her connections to help all of the places at once, right?
Yep.
Plus, she's traveling hither and yon with LaDonna and protesting. And so almost like she's a superhero of some sort, right?
Yep.
Bertie posts a picture with Sarah Sandoval, also calling her sister.
Oh, yeah.
Mi hermana. And they finally got to meet. They've been, helping each other out from a distance. And they're just showing the love, just showing all that love. They also have Leti Herrera and Sarah Sandoval all together with Lolly B, because of course they're friends, right?
Okay, yep.
Lolly B was Laura Cristina Livingston Berger was living in Tijuana for a long time, until quite recently, in fact, where she recently posted, I think, from an event in Minneapolis or the Minneapolis area. But she was in Tijuana for many months, helping the Border Support Network and working with Al Otro Lado, giving bad information to people seeking asylum, housing unaccompanied minors in secret hotel rooms, and all sorts of other fun things. And here she posts about her work with Sarah Sandoval. And she says that Sandoval is her beautiful friend that brought donations to and toys for the dozens of children at the family shelters here in Tijuana.
Mm-hmm.
The kids all wanted their own, but we had to encourage them to share. There were many young mothers with toddlers also asking for something to bring joy to their babies. One Guatemalan mother we met and visited for a while with, and our hearts broke open by her story. She's 24. The father of her less-than-year-old baby left her for someone else, and she had no way to survive. She traveled to the U.S. border with her father and a dream of a way to work to support her children. She was not informed about any of the policies or processes to enter legally. She crossed over the wall with her son and was apprehended. Spanish is her second language. She's indigenous and was not offered an interpreter. Her paperwork was filled out saying she's not in danger in her home country. She was given a court date at which she will more than likely be deported back to her home country. She was then dumped on the Mexico side of the border with absolutely nothing. Thankfully, a volunteer found her and helped her get into an already crowded shelter. She has no idea what happened to her father. We tried explaining to her several times how low chances of her getting in, considering what the paper says and the current political situation in the USA. Did you forget to mention the fact that you're telling people that they have a right to seek asylum that probably won't get it? That hasn't helped.
Exactly.
I digress. She continues, she burst into tears at the thought of being sent back where she was traveling from. How will I provide for my baby? I didn't eat for 2 days and my milk stopped flowing. I borrowed money to travel here. How will I ever pay it back because there is no work there? There are no jobs. I'll just wait for the court date and see if they let me in. I just want to make a better life for my child. I hope they will understand. We sighed and lamented how to communicate the hatred and racism and propaganda built up against people like her. I get that people are xenophobic and living in scarcity, but I struggle to imagine how someone could meet this young woman and her baby son and spew verbal violence to her face. But I know it happens over and over again. These people trying to migrate are innocent, good-hearted young people leaving everything they know for an opportunity to work hard because they literally have no other options. We tried to explain to her a few times that it might be best for her to stay in Mexico for a while and that we would try to find a way she could survive here. There's not enough shelters for single mothers with children. She's staying in a family shelter with 150 people in the space of one small house. There are mattresses all over the floors, tents, tarps, and new people constantly arriving. Leti, that's the shelter coordinator for Caritas, the shelter leader, does everything she can to accommodate the infinite number of people in need of a place to sleep so they are not on the streets. That's Leti Herrera.
Yep.
She's from Tijuana. The children loved the toys and art supplies. It is humbling to bring some smiles to their faces in the midst of such chaos. We know their futures are uncertain and there is much trauma behind and danger ahead. But for an afternoon, their parents could relax for a moment and play dominoes and know their children are having fun, would get dinner and sleep indoors. Thank you to everyone who contributed. We are now left with notice. As we left, we noticed that the house directly across the street from the shelter is for sale.
Okay.
I know there are people out there who have a heart and a lot of dollars calling in that person who could purchase the space and the house, the hundreds of human beings just to survive. So if you want to help, you can PayPal Farmer Jake Lee.
Yeah, you can give Jake Lee the money.
Yep, because they collect the money for themselves, not for the shelter, not for the people that run the shelter, supposedly, but for themselves. So I'm sure Leti is being well compensated for her help. Here's Sarah Sandoval working in a picture with Jake Lee.
That's when you send the money to.
That's who you send the money to. The ones that are also working on El Puente and that work over at Caritas. They work in all the shelters, folks. You see this? And here is Sandoval at a powwow in East Brunswick, New Jersey, hanging out with Lolly B.
Oh.
This is from a while ago, Duke. I showed pictures of Lolly B at this powwow wearing that dress before. You recognize the dress. LaDonna was there. A bunch of other people were there.
Yep.
And here is Sandoval with Lolly B and her pal Nathan Phillips.
Yeah.
Once again. And there's, Nathan Phillips' daughter. This is the same Nathan Phillips that claimed that those MAGA hat wearing Catholic kids at the Indigenous Peoples March were chanting "Build the Wall" and were being racist and disrespectful to him.
Yep.
Here is, Sarah Sandoval at an East Brunswick, New Jersey bar. She is, what is it called, Duke? Arm wrestling?
Yep, arm wrestling.
And who is she arm wrestling, Duke? Well, let me tell you, it's Lolly B. This is her. It's a clear picture of Lolly B, so you can see. They don't just protest.
They play.
And cross borders and fundraise from their rich friends, Ivy League connected daddy, and, festival lifestyle friends to fund these operations that are smuggling people across the border. They hang out and have beers, too, and arm wrestle. And here's someone else that Sandoval has hung out with. In this picture, you see them hanging out at another time in April. So they hang out quite often. In fact, in the post, Sarah calls Lolly her friend and says that she's her sister. And she says, you are beautiful and wonderful in so many ways. I'll see you in New York, in Tijuana, in New Mexico, Arizona, or wherever the universe connects us. Again, Manita, little sister. Because they're little sisters. That's her little sister.
I see.
And they've hooked up at least that many of states. And at least those many places. Here's another place where they were hanging out together. Here is Mulaney Stoneman behind Lolly B.
Oh, man.
Mulaney Stoneman's mom. This is Mulaney Stoneman, the woman that kidnapped an elderly person at Standing Rock, put that woman in an early grave, and put her daughter under false charges in jail for 6 months, leaving her there to rot. She didn't give a rip. What are they holding up those triangles for? Oh, yeah, it's Mauna Kea.
Oh, okay.
Remember that Mulaney was taken by LaDonna, along with Ed Higgins and a lot of these Hollywood-connected types to Hawaii. Remember that? But Sandoval has been many places. Here she is in Chiapas with the Zapatista.
Wow.
She's traveled a lot, but you know why? She's an airline stewardess. But do you think here she is with her uniform for Delta on, jumping in the air. She was going to she's at the U.S. Virgin Islands, but you can see that she is an airline stewardess for many of the pictures on her page. But I don't think on an airline stewardess's wages, she could be traveling as much as she does, and in so many places as she has, like Puerto Rico, India, the UK, Scotland, Iceland, Amsterdam, the Netherlands. I mean, if you go through her page, it's like she is constantly
everywhere.
traveling. She posted to her Instagram, I'm sure she wasn't in all three places at the same time, but on the same day that she posted from Mauna Kea, she posted pictures from Tijuana, and she posted pictures from Birdie Gutierrez at that march. So in the span of a week, or in the span of the last couple of weeks where we have shown those things happen in real time, she was at all of them. She was in Tijuana at the shelters. She was at the protest that Birdie Gutierrez was speaking at, and she was in Hawaii at Mauna Kea.
Wow.
This woman gets around, and she helps the money and the support get around to all of the people in the Border Support Network. That's all I have for you tonight here on A Mexican Crossing Lines. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to donate to our travel fund and to donate to our station if you like what you hear and what you learn here on A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp. Almost forgot who I am.
You're listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Good night.